Hello. I see you, and I'm happy to see you. So welcome. I think it's the smallest word you can think of, right? I. Just very few words have only one letter. But this little word I contains, I think, the whole eternal truth. Everything is merged in just one little letter, I. I think there's power when there's such a tiny little word that contains so much. It becomes like an atom. Atom is so small, yet this is one of the most powerful form of energy. If you break it, it creates a bomb. So imagine when the eye of the soul, breaks, creates chaos, creates a lot of sorrow and disturbances and conflicts. But when that little eye is united, is completely vibrant in its own truth, you can imagine how much power there is in that little eye, isn't it? So when we say I am, or I see, or I feel, the whole other word depends on who is that little I. Because that little I defines what comes afterwards. You say, I don't feel okay today. It's not that there is something to feel bad about. It's just that the I is not working. So the little I doesn't feel good. But maybe it is very nice what's happening outside. But the I doesn't feel good. Because the I is not okay. So that little I is such a little secret, and at the same time such a powerful window to infinite understanding and being. The idea is to transform that which I see into what I am, which is what I am being. And the power of seeing is what we call sight. If you see, you have sight. And when you apply sight to the eye or to God, then we get insight. We get insight about the being, about the self. So if I don't see me, I can't get an insight about me. I'll get maybe some ideas about someone else. If you watch people's defects, you'll get a lot of very interesting gossip to talk about. But you won't get insight about who you are, except being a gossiper, maybe. So seeing the eye can create insight. And there's a difference between sight and insight. Sight makes you see, so you can move forward. But insight gives you a kind of a little boost. You can move way faster if you have insight. If you are asked to go somewhere but you have no idea where you're going, you can't go anywhere. But if you have an insight, you say, oh, I know where it is. I can see it now. Then you know how to get there. And so sight and insight are very interesting. And either we see the self or we see God. The quality of the insight is incredible. And the Yeah, it gives you knowledge. Sometimes actually you need knowledge to see. So you first have to use knowledge, then you see. And the seeing will not necessarily give you knowledge, but it will give you wisdom, which is the transformation of knowledge into truth, into meaning, into power. So knowledge is what I consume. I would see knowledge as what I consume in order to get sight. I need to understand. I need to learn. I need to be told. That's why we learn. And if we think we know everything, then we don't learn anything. But the power of learning is that I'm using information. And if we think about it, a lot of our insight comes from what we've learned, what we've read. I would know nothing today. I couldn't even speak today if I hadn't learned so many classes in Raj Yoga. I've been studying for decades. And I'm so grateful. The other day I had an experience. The whole morning I was just having that one word, grateful. We have a beautiful song actually called Grateful. And just singing, what am I grateful for? And if you pay attention to it, I know it's not the topic, but we are moving around a little bit, but gratefulness was just making the list of what I am today because of what I've learned, what I've acquired. And to be very honest with you, I never spend time like this to feel how grateful I am for my father, physical father, for what he gave me, for my physical mother, for my friends, for my teachers. And if you start singing the song of everything you can be really grateful for, it's kind of amazing. Suddenly you realize how much you have been borrowing from really everywhere and how much we've been collecting from everyone, so much that is making my present being into who really is the being. And it is thanks to God, thanks to my friends, thanks to my teachers, thanks to my body, thanks to nature, thanks to the food I've been eating. And suddenly that gratefulness, it was the first time, honestly, that I started to really experience gratefulness changing from one word, one idea that I understood, and I experienced it in many ways. I heard the song that we probably will hear soon, that I heard that song a zillion times, and I love it. It's one of my favorite songs. And I felt it, as a devotional being. Oh, I'm grateful for the rain, for the sun, yeah, it's beautiful. But one day you're not listening to a song, you're singing it. And it comes from you, and you feel, okay, this is the time now I feel really, really grateful. This is insight. It's been learning, and suddenly I saw it, and then I felt, okay, greatness and gratefulness. So I is the seeing, and the seeing makes me who I am, really. So the whole concept of seeing into being is first paying attention to what I see and wondering how is it going to translate one day into what I'm being. And what we saw is that the sight giving insight is going through the process that we've seen, which is the seeing makes me attracted to something. If you, good or bad, if you see suddenly something on the floor and you say, oh, what is there? Then you pick it up, right? If you don't see it, you walk on it and you just don't even pay attention. If you see a quality in someone, it attracts you. You can fall in love with someone just because you saw a quality. The person next door didn't see the quality, doesn't fall in love. But I saw it. So seeing attracts me, gives me a desire. And that, attraction makes me feel like I want to possess. And then we saw that what it brings is that willingness to possess means I have to know why I want this, what I believe. That makes me in what I believe, so that I feel I can really possess it. If you fall in love with someone, but you feel completely inadequate and too low, and oh, this person is so, educated, and it's another category, has great friends. I can't, what is it called? Cinderella, is it? Before she turns into a pumpkin. I'm a pumpkin in love with a prince. Doesn't work. Doesn't look good. He's not going to want me when he sees I'm a pumpkin. When I have bad feet and, maybe smelling a little bit because I'm cleaning. Might not love me anymore, isn't it? And what had to happen for her to, She wanted, but she had to believe in herself. She had to regain that trust, that faith, who she is. That faith, with the desire, brought only that ability to get that power. So that's what we saw, that seeing makes me want, makes me desire the what I see, and then makes me believe in it, and then gives me the strength to have it. So the process of seeing is a process. It's not just I see and it happens. I have to pay attention to it. But the question is, what do I want to be? Because I'm not going to see everything right now. If I were to ask you now, do you see your perfect form? Do you see how you look like when you're perfect? You might say, well, I need glasses. Or I might even need a telescope, because this is really far past the moon and the other stars. So, what am I really going to see will again require certain understanding, so that I figure out what I want to be. When we're kids, we always ask that question. When you grow up, who do you want to be? Isn't it? But a kid, 7 years old, doesn't know about being. He only knows about seeing into what I look like. Seeing into being like. I want to be like a policeman. Doesn't really have a clue what a policeman really is all about. But he saw a picture and he wants to look like that. Because knowing really what's inside this uniform, that's another story. And when you actually graduate and practice for 10 years, one day you realize, okay, this is really what it is to be a policeman. It's very different from what I thought it was when I just saw it on a picture. And so we might say sometimes, I saw, a person and they look so confident. I'd like to be like this. But actually, it's not I like to be like this. I'd like to look like this. And we're very illusioned by how we want to look like versus how we really want to be like. You might want to be a great person, but do you know how much it costs to be a great person? How much effort is required? How much sacrifice is required? How much renunciation is required? If you know that, I'm not sure you want to be that. You might want to select a little more easy being, or not. But then we know what we want to be. So there's a big veil of illusion into the being, because we don't really know what it is to be. Being is like existing. So we all exist. But the question sometimes is, do we fully exist? It's like when you are not well physically, when you're sick, right? And those particularly who can be sick for a long time, they lose the memory of what it is not to be sick. I had a back problem. 1 year I couldn't play tennis. And you only know how to be a little old man when you have a little disc that is a little bit broken. You're always you go into your bathtub like a very old person, holding on to everything, that you're scared of falling. You see ice and it becomes like a big, isn't it? Everyone who went through disease, it's not easy. It's very complicated. And you forget. Until one day, which happily happened to me last few weeks, you go back on a tennis court and it's moving and it's working and you're hitting the ball and you're thinking, wow, I exist. It works. Thank you. Forgot about how incredible it is to do that. So imagine if for thousands of years you forgot how to be perfect. And someone asks you, do you want to be perfect? I says, what is that? Not possible. Impossible, we'd have no clue. The word perfect actually is very scary, because we tend to believe that it's not possible because we haven't seen it. So since we haven't seen it, we don't want it, we don't believe in it, and we're certainly not going to be that. So another word of being perfect, which I find more interesting, is being complete. Being complete is, well, that should be possible, because the opposite of complete is being incomplete or empty. So I want to be complete. So what does it mean? That becomes more interesting. Becoming perfect is almost too unattainable because of the fact that we have been told to believe that it's impossible to be perfect. No one is perfect. Have you ever heard that? Right? If you made a mistake and somebody wants to make you feel good, oh, don't worry, nobody's perfect. Oh, good, I feel good now. I can do another mistake, that's fine. That's the way we work. We recognize and we make us believe that no one is perfect. And it's totally all right to be imperfect, because everybody's imperfect. That doesn't motivate you to become perfect. And perfect actually is not impossible. It's just that what we believe to be perfect is crazy, because we don't know what it is. You know, we think it's going through the wall and healing people, or I don't know what. No, being perfect, maybe just being complete, being full. That's why the words that we use in meditation are beautiful. I don't want just to be peace. I want to be peaceful. I want to be loveful, right? Blissful. So this little full, not to confuse with fool, which is what we are usually. It's peaceful, you know, a little bit crazy, and then, you know, doesn't work. And but the fullness is what brings completion. And completion is perfection. Once you're complete, that's all we are. Perfect love is just loveful. It's just a state of love which is there and it's full. There's no means, we're not seeking more love because we're loveful. We're not seeking more peace because we're peaceful. And it does exist. It is possible. And not only that, but in the knowledge that we hear in Raja Yoga, we say it is natural. It's like actually the natural way of being is being complete. And the unnatural way of being is being empty, which is quite strange. And so the very simple process is understanding that the nature of the soul is to be peaceful, loveful, blissful, wonderful, powerful. That's the nature of the soul. But because the soul is broken, then it doesn't work. So it is peaceless, loveless. You know, it just doesn't work. There's a lacking, there's a leak. And so the soul is empty. So then it's always seeking more, seeking more, seeking more. And it's never satisfied because the bucket is, you know, leaking. There's a hole in it. So the more we consume, the less we feel full. So the more we get tired, we feel it doesn't work. So being full is actually finding where the leak is and, you know, just returning to a state of being aware of where is my completion. Does it make sense? Or is it like he's singing a nice song, but you know, where did he get that from? And it's like I'll never be that. The equation is simple, and the mechanic is very simple, but the doing is extremely difficult, and we know that. That's why we know that the main concept of Raja Yoga is for the being to be real, to exist. I need really a lot of power, a lot of energy to bring me there. And that's why we believe that the seeing can become a being if I get help from the Supreme. Because the higher being, the Supreme energy, will make me much better than what I would be by myself. And again, not that I'm obsessed with tennis, which I am, but I've been trying to improve myself alone for a long, long time. I've played tennis for years and years and years. Until one day I was so annoyed of making the same mistake over and over and over and over, and that mistake just never disappeared. I became better at making that mistake more strong, but it was still there. Until one day, just maybe 2 years ago, and I mean I tried a few times, but I never had a really, really good teacher for me. And then 2 years ago, I think, by coincidence, I found another teacher. I tried again, and this time was incredible. And that teacher could really show me, teach me, and I could really see my level of playing changing completely. So I was stuck for, I wouldn't even dare say how many decades, but for a long time, still enjoying, but frustrated with not progressing. And one day, because of having a teacher, which is the right teacher, he brought me right there. And I'm going to see that teacher back tomorrow morning at 9. Yes. I have a lesson. First time I'm going back with my classes. But as a soul, if you meet the Supreme Soul and he says, I can teach you to return to your perfect form, to your fullness, well, to me that's my same experience. That I can try to be a good being as much as I want. My experience is that if I try to do it alone, it doesn't work. But if I allow that little magical being or presence to be around me, and each one can relate to your own experience. If your God has a big trunk and big ears and his name is Ganesh, well, then call 1-800-GANESH and says, please come, I need to see you. And maybe you might want to chase little mouse around your house because you may not like having mouses around, or mice around. Yeah. So the idea of God, whichever it is, or the Supreme, or even nature or life, whatever we want to, how we want to frame it, if we invoke that presence, my experience is that it can really boost my ability to grow, my ability to see clearer. And as I said earlier, we see on the basis of what we learn. So it's good to know who is my teacher. Where am I learning from? Who is teaching me? What am I learning? And based on what I learn, I can know what I see. If you learn about, carpentry, you might start to see furniture, desks, things in wood or something. That is very different. If you learn bakery, you'll see bread, pastry, donuts, something will show up. It's a very different thing you're going to see based on what you learn. If you learn medicine, you see funny things. You might see organs and livers and stomachs. Very different. So what am I learning? What am I studying? And on the basis of that study, this is what I will see, and I will want, and I will have faith, and I will become that. So the process is simple, the mechanic is simple, but it's the doing which is a little bit complicated. So before we go into really the process of going from seeing into being, I think it's worth spending time into what kind of being I want to be. And sometimes we don't understand what it is to be a soul, to be an elevated soul, to be a pure soul, to be a great soul, because we don't know actually what the soul is. So you can know what it is to be a great person, or it might be even easier to know what is a great man or a great woman. But even that is not sometimes what we want to see. What people really want to be. What do you think? People say, I want to be rich. Big deal, okay. You want money. So it's not that they want to be rich. They probably have very specific things in mind that they want. And they translate into, I want to be rich. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. What do you mean you want to be happy? Take drugs, maybe it will work, or, go on a high-speed chase, maybe you'll feel really thrilled. I don't think they don't know what they want. It's just they want to look like. It's just illusion. Nobody really knows what they want to be, because they don't know what being is all about really, I believe. I mean, even for myself, it takes a lot of effort to figure out that being, because it's a word that is so loaded with illusions. They say when you see someone, oh, you look good. Why don't they say you are good? No, you look good. You look good today. You look nice. Thank you. No, I am nice. Just you don't get it. I am nice. You can say it. It's not that I look nice. Just focusing on what I look like. But it's more than looking. It's more than, they don't see who I am. They see what I look like. That's easy. No one knows what being is, really. Anyone knows what being pure is? For me, that was a very strange trigger in my life when I had a very strong experience with nature, with the whale, and I felt like suddenly nature was such a powerful energy, but such a beautiful and incredible energy. And I knew I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be as in harmony with that nature. I wanted to be like that nature. And the thought that came to my mind one day was, I want to be pure. That is the time I was starting to be granola and, vegetarian and wearing cotton clothes and stuff like that. That was my understanding of, you want to be pure. What does it mean? I have no idea, what does it mean to be pure? I still wasn't, I was still eating garlic, which is very smelly, For some people that doesn't equate with being pure. For others, fine garlic. Until one day somebody says, you really stink. After eating garlic, you should really put some little beans of coffee in your mouth or something, because the whole room is going to die. It's very subjective. What does it mean to be pure? When I was younger, not to take a shower and having hair all over the place for 10 days was fine. It was cool, that's cool. Well, for my neighbor, it was like stinky. Well, that's not cool at all. It was just like, you're told once to go and wash your feet and change your socks, not twice. I mean, if you have a little bit of self-esteem. Everything is very subjective. So that day, I had that thought, I want to be pure. And I felt like, I don't want to go to bed late anymore. I want to wake up with the sun. I want to drink water. I want to breathe. I want to stop smoking. And that really came like a big thing in my head. I don't know where that thought come from. I think it's just God who got so discouraged with me. He says, how about pure? Let's try that. And it worked, He tried to tell me many times, be a good boy. Didn't work. My dad tried. Didn't work. But that word, when it came out, I want to be pure, it was like very strange, I remember. And I translated it at that time in a very kind of first degree purity, food and this and clothing and time of waking up. And then when I came to Raj Yoga, they said, well, the main thing here is that we want the soul to become pure. And I said, that's a good idea. Now, what do you mean? I said, well, we can give you some ideas. And then I listened to that and I said, oh my goodness, this is complicated. This is not like going to your little health food store and buying some oatmeals and, little granola thing. This is a little bit more complicated. What do you mean never having waste thought? Oh, that's complicated. What do you mean not seeing the defect in others? That's complicated. Because being pure means your vision is pure, your heart is pure, your words are pure. So you don't see negativity, you don't talk about negativity. That's a little bit more complicated than not smoking, It's just a little bit more complicated. But when we see it and we start to get an idea of how it is to be pure, not to look pure, but just to be pure, and you start to make the equation that when I am pure, I feel great, I feel powerful, I feel sharp, I feel accurate, I feel synchronicity, I feel an aura around me. Have you ever felt that? So when I am, like being pure, means feeling great. It's very different. When you say, I want to be loving, I have no idea really what it means. Usually we mean, yeah, with my cat, you know. Great, that's very nice to be loving with your cat, because if you have the habit of being rough to your cat and taking it by the tail, you know, and it's good to want to be a little bit nicer with your cat. But being, you know, loveful applies to a little bit more than the cat. You know, it applies to your neighbor, to your boss, to the annoying little friend at work that drives you mad. So how do you feel loveful? Like not just love for that one, but loveful for everyone. We have no idea. We can even imagine, we can barely even imagine what it looks like, but leave alone what it feels like. So learning about being loveful, the definition, the seeing it, one day you realize, yeah, why do I want to be loveful? It's not because I will feel love for everyone. That's not what I really want to be. Being loveful means that there is no dependency on anyone. You know, the lovefulness is not about feeling love for everyone. The lovefulness is about being free from being subservient to everybody else, to be dependent on everybody else, to be attached to anyone else. That's what the state of being loveful is all about. And do you see the difference? If you think, for example, being peaceful, most people would think, oh, being peaceful, oh, you're very peaceful. And today I would say, no, this is how it looks like, but this is not how it feels like. Because when you're very, very peaceful, what you are being is not just nice and peaceful. That's what you want to look like or what you want to be, because you're at the moment very peaceless. Therefore, you just want to not be peaceless anymore. And so I want to be peaceful. Someone who is poor wants to be rich, but he hasn't understood that he is already rich. And that it's not a question of how much more money you have, but it's a question of how you are based on what you have. This is what rich is all about, isn't it? So being rich is not having money. Being rich is having or not having money, it doesn't matter. Is being free from wanting anything that will make me look like superior to someone else because of my money, because of my power of money, or my power of having possession. Someone who has nothing can feel to be the richest person in the world, because they would say, I have me, I have freedom. This is worth, you know, there was a joke of, what was it, I forgot, I saw it somewhere where nice man, old man is on the bench and he's just enjoying life. And I forgot the details, I might say totally crooked, but he's... And then somebody says, what are you doing, you know? Don't you want to, you know, be rich in your life and do something great in your life? So you're like, what? He says, well, you see the field here, you can own it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that could be your field. Okay, what will I do with it? Then you can plant things, you know, and then you will grow something. Then you can sell it. Then you can buy more land. Oh, yeah. And then what will I do? Then you grow more things. You get more money. Then you can have the whole, you know, big thing, big factory. You can hire like hundreds of thousands of people, have lots of money. And then what you do? Then you go by bench, then sit quietly and enjoy life. And he says, that's exactly what I'm doing. Why do you want me to go and do all this? I'm already here. I have no money, but I'm happy. I'm on the bench, enjoying life. I'm not sure the story is something like that. And so the idea is that people want to be rich, but it's not being rich they want. The illusion they want to look like, and it's a total illusion. So when you want to be peaceful, really what we want is to be overpowered by this notion of being in total stillness, so I can just vibrate in the right frequency with everything I'm doing, because I'm not disturbed. I'm not being buzzed by anything. So you're just very, very, very sharp. It's like someone who's shaking. It's difficult to eat, and if you're doing like this, right? You see the iPhone and all the gadget, but it's very hard to push your button. So I think being peaceless is like that. You can't do anything, and everything you talk, you be, you act, it's just everything is annoying. So you say, I want to be peaceful. No, actually, it's that we want to be free from that buzz. And what it is to be, being sync, being in the right frequency. Being peaceful is about actually being really powerful. Being peaceful is not about being quiet and serene and silent and nothing happens. That's just when you're tired and you want to sleep. That's when you're mentally disturbed and you want to not be like that anymore. But really, if I want to be peaceful, I have to understand what is being peaceful means. And being peaceful is really being powerful. Being in such a frequency that you experience that peace is like a sharp laser. It's very, very empowering, being peaceful. Because there's no, fluctuation. There's no, how do you call it? The French word is friture. When you listen to radio, there's some kind of buzz. There's no word like no noise like this. Static, yeah, there's no static. So your energy is clear. Everything you see is clear. What you do is clear. When you touch is clear. That's being peaceful. And we can talk about being peaceful, but you have to know, do you know someone very peaceful? Then you should ask them, how are you? Who are you? What is your being? And you need to learn from some very peaceful being, so we know what being peaceful is all about. That's why we feel, again, the best teacher is the ocean of peace himself. The Supreme Being is the ocean of peace. The Supreme Being is the ocean of love. It's a good teacher. He will tell you what love is all about, because he's the ocean of love. If you ask a little pond of love, which people are, most of them, we say, you're not an ocean, you're just a little pond, little hole of love. It's nice, Some are little rivers, that's even better. But most people are a nice little flack, a little pond. They can't tell you much about the abundance of love. That's very different. So the being is just, the first thing is to realize we don't really know what we want to be, because we haven't seen it. And we haven't paid attention to going a little bit deeper as to what it really means to be that. So now imagine that you would say, I want to be peaceful, loveful, blissful, happy, this, and self-confident. And you make the list. So, wow, what kind of being is that? That's even more unimaginable. I have no idea. You should put an ad in Kijiji and says, searching for, supremely peaceful, blissful, loveful, because I want to learn. Anybody else there? I don't think you'll get many calls. Many people have things. Very few people are, beings. They have knowledge, they have power, they have wealth, they have this. But are they, the being, is the core being? The very few, you know them. They move people. They move, the Mahatma Gandhis of this world. There are very few, but they move people. They use very few words. They move mountains. So those beings that are really full, you will notice them. You will see them. When you approach someone who is loveful, you'll know it, because you'll feel that love. You'll smile. If you meet someone who is loveless, which is like empty of love, means maybe they have hatred. They hate everybody. You'll feel it. Feels like, don't get too close. You might get pricked, It feels like when you see a cactus, the first time you may be a little bit stupid. Oh, well, no, okay, that was not nice. That's it. After that, you see a cactus, don't get close. Don't touch it. So we develop that kind of sense. So the being is really something we have to learn about. And the only ones who can teach you about it are those who have made the work to be there. If you go and see a plumber and you say, teach me about medicine, it's not a good idea. It might teach you how to fix pipes, but not sure he's going to teach you how to fix artery and blood vessels and brain things. You know? It's a totally different business. So if I want to learn about being an elevated soul, a pure soul, a great soul, I have to find the right teacher. Otherwise, I'm not sure what we're going to become. But that's where the meditation or the seeing becomes very important. Because based on what I learn, then I have to spend time seeing it. What do scientists do most of the time? They're just watching. They put a little, monkey with a little mouse, and they watch it and say, "What are you doing?" Then they bang the head of the monkey and say, "Now what is he doing?" They're just watching, isn't it? Most of science is based on watching. You do what they call an experiment. Now, are we doing experiments on ourselves? Have you ever tried to bang on your head and see how you feel? No, we don't. One day I told a good friend of mine that I was annoyed at myself because there was one particular behavior that was just not changing. And I knew about it, I knew I should be different, I wanted to be different, but this behavior just keep going. And she just told me, well, why don't you just watch yourself when this is happening? Don't tell yourself, don't be like this, don't do it. Anyway, you're going to do it. So just let yourself do it, but just watch yourself doing it. And really detach yourself from yourself and watch yourself doing it. See what happens. And I really did that because anyway, I had no choice. It was either you let your sanskara, your attitude happen, and you just feel and you don't see anything. But then watching it became actually quite entertaining. And then I started talking to myself, saying, "Oh, you're going to do it again? Okay, go for it. Okay, you want it? Okay, go for it. Yeah. You can do it. You're a master in it. You really..." And I started to be kind of sarcastic, but playing with myself. And then it kind of disempowered the being, because I started to see the illusion. I started to see the reality. And if you're angry and you don't want not to be angry, you will feel good about being angry. And you will tell people, "I'm so proud of myself. I told them what they needed to know." Okay, good. But the day you were, let's say, filmed in your anger without knowing it, and somebody said, "I want to show you something." And imagine somebody coming to show you being angry and saying the wrong things to someone. I'm not sure you will feel great about it. Unless you're, performing for a movie, and then that might be good and you can get an Oscar for it. But otherwise, chances are it wouldn't be something you feel very great about, right? I mean, I don't want to point too much, but a picture silly comes to mind. Someone was caught, let's say, in the House of Commons, just playing with their nose and doing something like this. And then they didn't know they were filmed, There was actually the person in front of them was speaking, but behind she was doing some little cleanup that was a little extra, cleaning thing happening. So of course, it's really, really sad, but that picture went around a lot on Facebook and social media and the news everywhere. Imagine, So whilst doing it, no problem, I'm just cleaning everything. But then when you see yourself from outside doing it, oh my God, this is terrible. And her comment was, "I'm really sorry. My mom told me to be better than that." That's the thought that she used. So until you see it, you just keep going. Because what are you seeing? Nothing. You're blind. And so when we're not actually peaceful, loveful, blissful, we're not seeing ourselves not being like this. If you're not, if you're walking all like a sad, little, I call them usually, how to call them, a raisin, a dry raisin, instead of the grape, you're on the raisin, un raisin sec. In French you say a dry raisin, it's just like wrinkle, or a dry plum, just like a rock. You may not know, but let's say if you were, sometimes I see myself being a little bit like this. Then I call myself and say, hey, just put yourself straight. Your parents keep saying that to us. Hey, stand straight. Don't stand like this. You look like a dying person. So when you don't know about it, you don't pay attention to it. But the moment you see it, you say, oh, wow, that doesn't look good, isn't it? So the moment we see, it changes things. And so that's why this seeing into being is very interesting, because they're totally connected. If I see the wrong in me, then I might want to start doing something about it. But if I don't see it, I'll do nothing about it. And we say the most invisible defect, do you know what's his name? The most invisible one, the one that is unseeable by the self, is the ego. Because ego is a distortion of the I. So that already is saying everything. And it's a distortion of the I, the letter, but the I also, inner I. So ego is a distorted self, which becomes egotistical, egoist, arrogant, proud, la vanité, what is it? Vanity? Yeah. All these vain, yeah. All these little twisted eyes. So, and the power of ego is to make itself invisible to the real I. Otherwise we'll kill it. We have no idea. We can see our anger, very easy. You can see your attachment. You can see your every vice or every defect is actually very, very easy to see. But the ego, very difficult. Gross forms of ego, yes, you might see it. But subtle ones, very difficult. Sometimes it's just an energy, it's just a vibration. They say men have a dominant energy which doesn't need to speak, to do anything. You can just sit there and say, I have no ego. Yeah, you do. You just smell it. You just feel it. It's there. In the same way, humility, you feel it. Someone who's humble doesn't have to say a word. You feel drawn to the person. Ego, there's a strange energy. You feel careful. That ego is usually like, something you might get hurt if you get close to it. So, I think it's worth paying attention to now what I want to be. And I come back to that question when you're a kid and you're asked, what do you want to be? Who do you want to be? We come up with professions and simplistic images, a nurse, a doctor, and this. For me, I wanted to be a baron. That was my big thing when I was a kid. Which was couldn't find a school to become a baron, but we had a friend in the family and he was a baron, and I thought that was perfect profession because he never worked, that I like very much, and he looked very nice. He always had this velvet clothing and he had beautiful dogs, living in a little mansion by the ocean. I thought, yeah, I want to be a baron. That's a good idea. But yeah, it just doesn't work. And now I came to Raj Yoga and they said, no, you have to be a king. I said, oh, well, then that's even better. But I think if we were to be asked today as an adult, who do you want to be? Some clever one might say, I want just to be me. Okay, what are you talking about? It's the lazy bee. Just I want to be me. Okay, you be nothing and you are nothing and you are be and you are you and it's fine. That's peace and love with a big funny thing in your mouth. It doesn't work. So who do we want to be? If I had to describe really who I want to be, I'll leave you with one exercise you might want to pay attention to. And one day, a very good friend of mine told me, if you want to know who is within you and who you are actually many beings in you, but you have to name them. You have to see who is in you. And the exercise was very simple, and it says you draw a stage, like a powerful stage. You can put curtains if you want, but you put stage, like a theater stage. And you have to find the six characters that live in you. Very, very characteristic characters with very specific charisma. And not too simplistic. Find a real name on it. Not the doctor, the policeman, and the baron or something like that. Although I have a baron. But find 6 personalities in you that are very specific. And I'll just give you one example. And you have to really search. And this is the scientist sitting in front of the mirror and say, what do I see? That's what I'm talking about. And so I had to do that exercise. And it might take you a few days because you have to really churn. And it has to be characters that exist in you that are there from a long, long time. They are there since we were a kid. They've been there all the time. And in my case, for example, I saw one part of me, which was really, it's a bit of psychotherapy, but one part of me was my relationship with my sisters. And because one day, and I know we all suffer from traumatic experiences when we're kids, but I had an older sister, and she could get out, she could go out in the evening only if she brought me with her. So that was my mom's condition. Oh, you can go out, but you bring your brother with you. Oh my gosh, I have to bring my little brother with me, And for her, it was a pain having to, I have to take the little brother now with her. And me, I felt I was kind of, I felt like I was given suddenly the mandate of watching over my, bodyguard, but reporting to my mom, And my mom will feel, well, if he's around, he can tell me who was with her and this and that. Chaperon, in French. So she would take me with her sometimes to the park. She was older, even just a year and a half older, and that age makes a big difference. They're in secondary school, you're in elementary school. That's a big, big difference. So her friends were taller, bigger. They were not drinking what I was drinking. They were not doing what I was doing. And so I went to the party one night, and I was bored to death. She was there with a friend, and they were having fun, and I knew nobody. I'm in a little corner, I look a loser, and then nobody comes to me because I look probably like I'm 6 years old, and so anyway, and then I'm there in a party and waiting, and at some point it's so late, I'm so annoyed and sad, and says, "What are you doing here?" I says, "Well, I'm, waiting for my sister." "Oh, your sister just left a while ago." I said, "What?" My sister left, and she totally forgot about me. She forgot she brought her brother, so it's like forgetting your purse or your cell phone or whatever. And I felt so bad, that she abandoned me, she forgot me. So I said, what do I do? Because I didn't know where we were, she brought me there. I didn't even know how to get back home. So I went out because what am I doing there with all these people I don't know? So I went outside. And, I don't know, I was maybe 12, I think, something like that, or 11, I don't know. I was really unhappy, and so suddenly I saw my sister running. "Oh, Eric, sorry, I forgot you, And then this syndrome repeated a few times in different formats. So I realized when they asked me, go on the stage, who is in you? And I realized I had one character that I named the left behind brother. And this is a little being that is always a little bit kind of left behind. And I realized that in many times in my life when it was not with my sister anymore, but with other people, that syndrome reappeared. The feeling that they are better, they're greater, I don't mean much, and they forgot about me, and this kind of thing. Don't worry, I'm healed and it's fine. Took care of that little character. It's an exercise I was asked to do many years ago. But you search for those kind of characters that are very, very distinct, very unique inside of you. And they may be different, some of us, we do have a form of nurse, but given not just the name a nurse, find exactly what kind of nurse is in you. Is it an obsessed nurse? She wants to inject everybody with something, or is it a nurse really loving, or is it a lunatic nurse, she gives you wrong medication all the time? Is it the serial killer nurse? Is it the nurse looking for a husband, just but caring with the uniform, I love you, I care for you. Are you married? I'm just teasing, but try to find a character with the real name, who they are really. And you find 6 characters like this. And this is a big insight into who am I really. And so if you ask after yourself the question, who do I want to be? You have to call those 6 people and say, we have a problem. Now, who do we want to be? And each one of those 6 one will say, me, 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 me. I said, not really. There might be some good ones in there too. 6 characters there will be good ones and bad ones, or funny one and strange one and obscure ones. But the idea is, now, if I were to decide who I want to be, what would you create as a character? What kind of other characters you want to be? So this is like simple exercise, but we're not 10 years old anymore being asked, who do you want to be? We're grown-up people being asked now, really, who do I want to be? And again, not who do I want to look like? Do I know what it means to be like that? So that's why I'm saying you're not seeing the nurse in you, but you're saying what kind of nurse it is. Not that it looks like a nurse, but what kind of being the nurse is all about. So it might be an exercise you might want to play with. And next session I'll tell you what to do with those 6 funny characters, and see if we bring out the police or the ambulance or who we call to take care of your 6 little wild characters. Yeah, Spider-Man. Again, you might find some superhero in you. Possible. But I really invite you to try that, because it's part of the seeing. You have to observe, who am I? What is in me? Who am I really? The day somebody describes you in one way, or someone, for example, one day might tell you, why do you always apologize for everything? And you apologize, but you never really paid attention. Why do you always apologize? And I think this is usually the door to massive self-realization. And you might never want to get through that door, because it might be painful. And apologizing might be just a facade, because deep within you're not apologizing at all. You're being hurt. But it's very different. And if apologizing is a facade to not feel I'm being hurt, that's a big thing. Because normally apologizing is when you think you're hurting someone else. But actually you're not. You're hurt yourself. So, yeah, because sometimes, people, it's happening, oh, I'm sorry. And actually the other person feels, why are you sorry about? There's nothing to be sorry about. You didn't hurt anyone. But you are sensitive. Something is hurt within you. And that is what you translate into I apologize. And most of the time people would say, don't worry, there's nothing to apologize for. So if someone has that syndrome of apologizing for everything, there might be something deep within that is worth checking. And that's where the being is hiding somewhere. What is the being within? Why is the being apologizing all the time? I have a friend. It's very interesting having a discussion with her, because, and I've tried. Honestly, I know it's not very divine, but I've tried a few things, because it's a person that you can say anything, and it's just like before you end your sentence, her response is always, yeah, me too, I know about this, and then she goes with her own thing. So you can say, oh, the sky is blue today. Yeah, when I come from, I was this weekend, oh, the sky was on. Okay, I didn't finish, I was just about to say, there's a big plane crashing in the sky, but you didn't hear about it. And then, it's to the point when one day I told her, well, I lost my mother when I was very young, and oh yeah, my husband is like that. He lost his husband, his wife, his mother. Okay, I was just about telling you how bad I feel, and okay, no, you don't care, okay. And it's really a person who just can't listen more than one sentence. And I was one day really puzzled, thinking, how do you have a conversation with a person like this? Well, you just stop talking about yourself. And then you just give cues, so that she can go on different things. So I try different things sometimes with, very strange sentences to see if she will still go like this. And she did, I almost tried saying, I crashed my car. Oh yeah, I know, crashing car is really bad. My neighbor, I think he must have had she never ask me, really? Did you get hurt? And then this was very strange. So I wondered, how would you describe such a character? And I want to expand, but it's actually a very, very true experience I had with her. And I had to not see the defect, because I know we're told not to see the defect, but I thought, what can I see in her that will allow me to suddenly reach out to her? And basically, there's this big, big, big feeling in her life that nobody cares about her. She feels completely useless, disapproved of. She has a very specific physical appearance that is very easy to ignore, reject, everything. And I realized how it's an extreme form of being abandoned, being totally not having anyone who cares for you. And so I started telling her I care for her. And that was like throwing a bomb in her. And if I just had to say, I really care for you, I want to know what happened to you yesterday. Suddenly, she's like, her whole thing is like, you want me to talk about myself? Which she normally only does. Suddenly, it was like, whoops, what's happening here? Somebody saw me. It's like the naked emperor. So then somebody says, yeah, I want to give you some nice dress. Oh, you saw I was naked? It was a big, big... and I realized you can see behind the veil of illusion, and things change completely. So sometimes we see a defect in someone, but we shouldn't see the defect. We should see, what is that defect hiding? And it's hiding something. And when you see what is being hidden, then you address that. Then you see a big, big response. So the being, I'm still again going with that idea that the being is not the appearance. It is really a deep, deep state of existence, which is very, very, very tangible. But we have to really put a finger on it. But it also starts with seeing. So if you want to try that exercise, play with those 6 characters and come back next week and we'll tell you what to do with those 6 characters. Because they have to have a little meeting. They should have a little talk to each other. And I'll tell you how to organize that meeting. Don't do it yet. It's going to be chaotic. So you need a little advice on how to create that meeting.
So we have to come back.
You have to come back.
It's 6 dominant characters
Yeah.
within yourself.
Yeah.
It could be negative, it could be
Yeah.
positive.
That defines you. Yeah. Really 6 characters that you know are there. And they've been there for a long time. They might be a very new kid on the block. Unlikely. They're usually there for a long time. They've been there right from your youth. They define you, Some of them are being seen by other people and they've been mentioned to you many times. Oh, you're always nice with everyone. Okay, who is nice with everyone? Is it a compulsive world mother saving the world? Or is it a seducer? There are so many possibilities. Try to be honest. Just stare at the mirror and ask yourself, hello, who is there? Come out of your little thing. I want to see you. You might be surprised. Don't worry, I won't ask you to reveal those 6 names when you come back.
We can draw them from it.
Yeah, you draw them. Actually, it is, thank you, because the exercise, seriously, you have to put them on the stage.
Yes.
Where do you put them on the stage?
That's great for therapy.
It is therapy.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You find out then.
Yeah, and you put them, you draw them on the stage. Where do you put them on the stage? Very interesting. All right, let's have a little meditation together, just a few minutes, and see. Taking time to be with myself. I really want to see myself. I know that that which is in the I, the I of I am, the I of I feel, the I of I want. I want to know who is that I. And I have learned that seeing who I am will allow me to be what the I can be in its most beautiful, in its most complete form. Because if I see something which is weak or negative within me, it doesn't mean that this is who I am. It's like when I'm sick. Doesn't mean I am the sickness. I just caught it. So who am I? And if I could see beyond my limited self, if I could go beyond what I look like and see what I really am, and I have learned that within the I there is the soul. And I have learned that I, the soul, have an infinite potential. It just depends on how I see it, how I see myself. Because when I see myself as a soul, I see myself as a being of light, a being of energy, a being of life, a being of values, a being of qualities. because the soul is like nature. It is naturally beautiful, naturally great. But the soul has been hidden, has been broken. So today when I see the I only see what I look like. I see my form, I see my role, I see what I do. But I don't see the soul. So I open my eye. And I have learned that the soul is a being of light in the center of the forehead. Because the soul is the life within the physical body. It is the soul that drives the being, the way I think, the way I feel, what I want. It is the eye of the soul. And when the soul sees itself as a soul, it sees beauty, it sees greatness, it sees fullness. So I see the soul, but I also want to be the soul. I want to be that greatness, that beauty, that fullness. This is what I want to be. I want to be full, complete, radiant. And in that stage of fullness, and now I will be free. There won't be any bondages, any limitation, but just fullness, greatness, and beauty. I see you. I'm happy to see you. To see you. Good to see you, as we say. Right? That's what we say, but we only see the body. So now when you say I see you, happy to see you, it has a new meaning. I see the real you. I see really who is the I behind.